Hello and welcome to this demonstration of Selective SMTP archiving in Enterprise Vault 1101. My name's Phil Walters and I'm a consultant working for a company called Adeptech. So we're starting on the Enterprise Vault server, and you notice I've already got the admin console open. I've previously configured SMTP archiving, so let's go and have a look at the configuration. So what you'll notice is that if I go to the properties of the SMTP node here, this is already configured. Here's where I can configure, for instance, the port the SMTP server is listening on. I can configure security such as TLS, authentication, and so on. I do have one target email address already configured for evjournal@smtp.local. And this is the policy, retention category it's using, and the archive. There is a task that's already been set up. Here's our SMTP archiving task, and you can see that it's processes all the time. And we have one archive for the evjournal1 target address. So what I'm going to configure now is a second archive called sales, and I'm going to configure a couple of target addresses, send those emails into that one archive. So call it sales. I'm just going to configure the permissions on that so that my service account can open up and look inside it. So I'm going to add EV service, just with read access. So to configure my target addresses, I go under targets and an SMTP, right click and go new target email address. So that's the email address it's looking out for. So any emails sent to or from that email address are going to get archived. Specify the policy and the retention category and which archive I'm going to put it in. So obviously I'm going to select my sales archive that I've just created. And you'll notice that whenever I make any changes, I need to restart the archiving task. So I'm going to create another target address for Davina Gilman. And once again, put this into the sales archive. Another thing I need to do is change the properties of this target address. So this is for my journal address. So it's still sending emails to evjournal.smtp.local, but I don't want these emails to be archived. I still need the target address, but I don't want it to be archived. So I'm going to clear this and click OK. And you notice this also requires to restart the archiving task. So now I'm going to restart that task. What I'm going to do is use OWA to send out a couple of emails from another user. I'm also going to send a second one out that isn't to either Diana or Davina. Obviously this email should be archived because it doesn't have a target address that matches any target address within EV. So let's go and find the holding folder now. So I've configured it under D and then SMTP Holding. This is configured in the properties of the archiving task, and it's actually the 7th today, so it's under 7. And you'll notice I've got 2 EML files there for the 2 messages that I've sent. We need to wait a minute or two now for the archiving task to archive these according to the target addresses that we've already configured. So one should end up in the sales archive. The other one will just be discarded because it doesn't match a target address. Okay, the emails have now disappeared, so we can now go and look into the archive to see where the items have been archived. So open up sales, click on inbox, and you'll notice that only one email has been archived. We haven't archived the other one because it didn't match the target address. So what I want to show you now is selective mailbox journal archiving. So it's subtly different in that now the emails sent and received by Diana and Davina are going to be placed into their own personal archive, into a mailbox archive. In order to do this, I'll need to set up a different SMTP policy, which I'm going to do now. So we're under policies, SMTP, and create a new policy. I'm going to call it SMTP user policy. And I'm going to go into that policy under advanced and change this journal report processing, modify that to discard journal reports. Because we're doing this for users now, they don't need the journal wrapper anymore, the journal. So get rid of that. One thing I didn't show you previously, which I should have done, is in the site properties, under advanced, we go to SMTP. You'll notice that selective journal archiving is already on. It's on by default. That's the reason why the previous demonstration actually worked. So I've got my policy now. So what I want to do is change the 2 targets that I created earlier and change them to use a different policy. So change them to use the SMTP user policy and then change the archive to a mailbox archive. You notice this also needs the archiving task restarting. Do the same for Davina. Restart the archiving task, which I need to do. So I'm now going to go back to OWA and send another email. Once again, this should land up in our holding folder. So there's the EML file. So we need to wait for that to be archived. Okay, the email's now disappeared from the SMTP Holding folder. So what I'm going to do now is to switch over to the client machine and log on as Diana Palmer and see whether we can see the email within her personal archive. So I'm now on the client machine. So if I go into Enterprise Vault and click Search Vaults, I should be able to see the item. So you'll notice that that email has now been archived into Diana Palmer's mailbox archive, her personal archive. So that brings to the end of this demonstration of how to set up selective SMTP archiving in Enterprise Vault 1101. Thank you for listening.